Welcome to the HIT podcast, H.I.T, Human Resources, Insurance, and Technology. I'm your host, Toby Kennedy. As we do every week, we are dropping into your feed with what I hope are bite-sized, digestible, really well-curated conversations going on in the space. This week's episode will be absolutely no exception. This week's episode is brought to you by Montage Insurance Solutions. And without any further ado, I bring on my guest, Angela Finlay. Angela, I am so grateful for you to be here. How are you?
I'm good. Excited to be here. Thank you again.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for being on. And I think just to kind of orient the audience a little bit to kind of all the many career places and books and teaching and all the like awesome things you do, can you just give me a quick overview of Angela Finlay?
Sure. So I often refer to myself as a CHRO on demand. So I am often working with companies who need senior HR leadership exactly when they need it, but necessarily don't have the price tag for it. And so I come in and help build stronger HR systems without having to hire a full-time person with it. The other scenario where I'm also on demand is I come in when we are dealing with an HR function in transition, a CEO who's not happy, that is looking for that thing that they've said, this HR function has not been great. I don't know what it is. I've not been happy with it. I'm afraid to hire somebody new until I figure out what I really need. And so I often come in interim situations and work through that. So that is my day job and what I've
Yes.
been doing for the last 5 years. On the side, I also have the great pleasure of teaching in programs in Columbia University's Masters of Human Capital Management program in a local university, Fairleigh Dickinson, in their business program. And I wrote a book. So it gives me a chance to stay on top of what's going on, research, and be in the daily onslaught of things that are happening in the marketplace right now.
Yeah, and that's a really fascinating, thank you for that, by the way. That's a really fascinating transition into your book. Your book, Skill Stacking, which is available and actually behind you even, and awesome and beautiful and wonderful. And we can get into how people can find you and reach out to you in a minute. But the skill stacking title and then the skill stacking sort of thought and research and all the kind of time and energy you've spent on that topic is really interesting and a place I'd love to start with you. When you say that, what do you mean? Kind of what has the research shown you and what are, talk to me.
Sure. So it's interesting. I get a lot of times the question that says, how did you end up on this topic? Right, Angela, you could have written about calculating return on investment on HCM programs. That's kind of what I teach and things along those lines. And instead, I went skill stacking. And so people often go, what took you in that direction? Right. And it really has been to me a passion project. So it was one of those things where I'm sitting inside the house of a lot of organizations and we're talking about how do I figure out the right skills if I don't know in the next couple of years what the right skills are, right? And everything is evolving and changing. And I'm sitting at the cusp of college students saying, well, how do I develop a career if I don't know what the career looks like in 5 to 10 years, right? And I even have teenagers. So I'm trying to figure out what to do with my, soon to be senior in high school and what direction she goes in. And so for me, it was really just a curiosity of how do we really think about careers and then ultimately organizations from the standpoint of building ourselves in a way where the unknown is here, right? And so skill stacking is not a new idea. It's been around since 2018, 2016. I clearly did not just coin the phrase, but it is the concept that your career value comes from not deep skill, right? And it could be deep skills in different areas, but it comes from the unique combination of everything you bring. And so it could be your industry knowledge, it could be your lived experiences, it could be side projects, it could be my experience managing my kids' lacrosse team programs, whatever it may be. We're all building skills daily that don't show up on resumes. And so how do I start to inventory them, categorize them, and think about them in a way that helps me show what I can bring in times where we may not always know what we need someone to bring, but I've got an inventory of skills that I can tap into to be able to meet the demand and expectations at that time.
I feel like it's really interesting that you start off by the myriad of different inspirations, including your college students, right? And I happen to live in a college town. I live in Westwood, kind of near UCLA. And a buddy and I, who are both, in our 40s, working professionals, we're grabbing a happy hour, and then, go to the restroom. And as we're like washing our hands to leave, some kid walks up, and he's like 20, right? And he looks like he had just seen the storming of Normandy or something. He's just got this like 1,000-yard stare, and he was like, "What? Do you guys have like jobs? What do you like? What should I do? Like, how do I get where you are? Like, basically like help." And I was like, "Oh my God, like we're in a men's room. It's weird." To be like, how lost must you be to walk up to two random dude? I mean, we had polos and slacks on, so I suppose we looked employed, but like, just literally like saying, point me in some direction, random stranger, and I'll just go, right? And so I think that you probably experienced at least a degree of that with your college students. And when you talk about skill stacking, it almost makes me think it's a bit of like an imposter syndrome antidote, or it's a bit of a like encouragement or even a safety blanket to a degree where you're like, guys, I know you think you might possess nothing or be nowhere, but you have all these things, right? So let me turn it over to you to talk.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm honestly not shocked that a college student came up to you, because today, interestingly, I was teaching a class. I teach a class on career development and leadership skills this semester. And we talk about it's seniors in college that are about to graduate. How do I think about my leadership style and approaches, and have some reflection on how I want to show up as a leader in the future? And today apparently was senior skip day. I didn't know this. So I show up to class, and I have like 35% of the class that I typically would have. And with that, ended up using part of the time to talk to the students that were there, right? And just kind of saying, all right, graduation's next month. What are you going to do? What's your plan? And they all look like deer in headlights. I don't think it's deers. That's not the right multiple. Deer in headlights, right? They just look
Maybe they were little dears to you, though, just like
years.
little
They could be.
DEARs,
They could be
dears.
the other
Yes.
way. And that's where I just had to have a heart to heart with them, because they said, I've had trouble getting internships. I don't really have experience to show. Everybody wants experience. And I kept saying to them, you have experience, right?
Yeah.
I am sitting in the class, and there's some really phenomenal students in this class who've run clubs, who've been captain of a football team, right? All these different
Well,
things.
especially today, right? This is a self-selecting group that didn't ditch on senior ditch day. They
Yes.
must be the cream of the crop. This is your top
You're
third.
even better.
Yes, or they didn't know about it. Yeah, so they're so
Yeah.
cool.
And I said, the problem we all have. And I said, I don't care if you're 50, because I can talk to my friends in my neighborhood who are 50 that can't articulate it. So I certainly am not surprised I don't know what you are, when you graduate 22-year-old,
Yeah.
you can't articulate it. But we need to be able to articulate how we show up, right? And what are those skills? And so part of the reason why I was trying to frame it in the book is thinking about it from a category model perspective, right? And so I landed on stack, which could have gone 5 different ways, but it was the whole concept of stack, right? And so how do I start to think about all the experiences and the things I've done? And this is where the class and I talked it through today, right? Like, tell me S, supportive skills, right? Those are kind of your foundational skills. What are the technical and functional knowledge areas that you've built, right? You've spent 4 years in college. I hope you're walking away with some technical knowledge, right? But on top of it, you have tools. You've been able to do things. You've done presentations, right? They're all the kind of things that you've foundationally been able to build that you can bring to the table. But beyond that, it's also the T, which is tactical, right? What are those things that allow for me to execute? My ability to problem solve, my ability to get things done under pressure, my ability to deliver results, to come in on time and on budget, and things along those lines. These college students have done it, right? They've run clubs. One of them was telling me one of their club budgets was something like $10,000.
Wow.
I don't know how they come up with 10,000, but kudos to them. But you're running a budget that's $20,000 or $10,000. You have skills, right, that have come out of that, and your ability to have resource management and prioritization and all those things that come with it. Adaptive is the A. And that's kind of the mindset, right? The flexibility, the resilience, the learning agility. These are students that were graduating high school in a pandemic, right?
Right.
Have flexibility and agility, right? Like they all had various forms of how they got education, how they shifted, how they pivoted, being able to articulate that. C, complementary skills. So how you show up with people, how you communicate, emotional intelligence, collaboration. I can tell you the group that sat in my room today have that. Some don't. And I'm convinced even more so as a CHRO that that will be the commodity going forward. My
Yeah.
ability to have emotional intelligence and communicate with people and read a room and understand political savviness and all those things will be the differentiator beyond all of the other
I tell my
that go.
wife this all the time, and then I'll let you get back on. But I want to emphasize what you said because of how deeply passionate. I tell my wife all the time about her kids. I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I go, I just care about how they are in the room. How are you in the room? Like your grades and all that stuff. I'm sure you'll be fine, but don't look to me to chastise you over a B- or whatever. I maybe one day if my kids will listen to this, I knew he didn't care. I don't care. I care how you are in the room, and that will carry you so much further than whether you got a 3.4 or a 3.8. Like it doesn't matter to me.
It is. It's so true. I just not to take us off on like personal tangent, but I just had a conversation with my husband this morning where I said I'm not worried about my 10-year-old
Yeah.
succeeding in life because he told me a story about having to be a witness for some kind of bullying that happened in a class. And he was pulled into the guidance counselor's office. And he said, I started with an icebreaker just so she felt comfortable talking to me at 10. And I said,
That's
I'm not worried about
amazing.
you. If you can comprehend how to connect with people at 10 years old, kudos to you.
Amen. Especially as the, digital overlords start taking over more and more. It's like the humanity part of a human and the
Mhm.
ability to just, I mean, even like some improv classes, right? I mean, go ahead and yes and some of this stuff. Read the room. Yeah. Anyways, speaking of trampling over people in rooms and not being able to read them properly, let me get you back on track because you were on C, the complementary
See
skills.
complementary skills, and clearly we both think those are
That's
very
right.
important
Right. So this is
ones
an
to hone in
amazingly
on.
ironic time for me to be so interrupting.
And
Yeah.
K is knowledge seeking skills.
Yeah.
So, I just finished a great book. I promote all kinds of books and I'm an avid reader, much to my children's dismay, because I push it on them as well. But there is an interesting book called Polymath. And Polymath is just about, like how did Elon Musk or Albert Einstein and all of those people kind of do the things that they've done, right? Whatever you think about Elon Musk, he's clearly done stuff, right? And a lot of it goes down to curiosity and like learning things that really don't seem like they connect, but that you find later on they connect, right? I have a person I interviewed when I was doing my book. I was trying to get career stories and try and figure out how do you start to put some shape to this. And she's actually a former client of mine. And she was telling me a story about she as a younger person starting out, she was a teacher and she ended up on the side getting involved with an organization that because she was teaching in an underprivileged area and so she got involved on the side with a group that got involved with how do you keep people out of prison, right? Or rehabilitate people that are coming out of prison. And it was a side volunteer project, something she just did. She learned a lot in it, and then ultimately took that and used it to head up learning programs at a prison system near her, being able to kind of tap into the different things. She didn't get involved because she ultimately wanted to head up teaching programs at prison systems. It was a curiosity to her. It was a passion for her. And it ended up being something that kind of grew into another opportunity for her. So those are the things. If we start to categorize, supportive, tactical, adaptive, complementary, knowledge seeking, and you look at your entire life, not just what's listed on your resume, but you look at the things I do outside, these volunteer things that I'm involved with, the kids programs that I run, right?
Yeah.
Or, I'm sitting on the board of my church brings all new skills with that as well. And all of those pieces actually make us way more valuable than we give ourselves credit for on a one-page CV, right? And
Yeah.
so being really thoughtful about inventorying it, I think is so critical right now,
Yeah.
and why I ended up putting out the book this year.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about how we inventory it and doing some of those things. But I also just, sometimes I'll use an analogy with folks where I talk about when you're driving home at night, your headlights only illuminate the whatever, I don't know, 200 feet in front of you. Don't at me, car people, whatever. But it doesn't illuminate the whole way, right? I can't see there from here. I can just see these bits in front of me. And you got to make, right decisions about adjusting the wheel and doing this, that, and the third. And I feel that way about life sometimes where it's like, you can't see all the way there from here, but right in front of you, you have this opportunity, as you said, volunteer for the church. And right in front of you, you have the opportunity to do this and that. And it all stacks, chains kind of together at the end. When you look back, now you can see a thread or a through line, or you can see some of these things that you couldn't. But having, I guess, the comfort of knowing that's sort of how this game of life works. You play kind of the pieces in front of you. You make the best decisions in front of you and have a little trust or faith or just knowledge that this is kind of how this goes for everybody, that then later you'll make a next step and later you'll make a next step and later you'll make a next step. So I want to get you on that concept first and then dive into kind of some of your.
I talk about in the book of kind of how you map it out, right? But and I actually have somebody working on an app, because I think sometimes we're in the app mode these days. Like, how can I start to categorize things and put it in, and like each new experience, throw it in and have it kind of stored it in my skills. But with that being said, I think it takes time, and I've used the word intentionality so much lately, but I feel like I can't use it enough, right?
Mm.
It is taking the time to sit down and saying, let me list off all the things I've done, right? And then walk through, like almost like I do as a CHRO, right? I go into organizations that often we're not happy with the HR team or the function. That's why they call me in, right? And so I go in and I'm kind of doing an inventory of what's being done. And then I'm kind of workflow processing what's happening and trying to pinpoint where there are challenges, right? To me, doing an inventory is identifying all the things I've done and then kind of workflow processing the different things I did there, right? And then, oh, I did that. That's kind of the skill, right? And oh, I did that. And that's the skill. And then when I kind of look at the big picture of it all, it gives me a whole different view than looking at a job title, right?
Mm.
And, we all have seen, like, I know plenty of people, having sat as a CHRO, that I could tell you what their job title was and tell you it has nothing to do with the skills they brought to the
Sure.
table, right? Like, that person who is able to bring teams together
Mm-hmm.
could have an engineering title,
Mm-hmm.
but their true skill set in that organization was their ability to see the connections, pull people together, get resources around something. I'm not going to pick that up in them listing that on their resume. What I am going to pick it up is if they sat down and said, what did I do every day? And all those different pieces, that's the time where you can sit down and really start to do it, right? And this is where we can use AI, right? Whether it's the app I come out with, or it's just opening up your own Claude account and just saying, here are the things I've done, right? Here's my resume. Tell me what skills show up when I look at it from this perspective. And it's just another data point to kind of say, oh, yeah, you're right. I probably did have that skill there that I never really thought about because I just took it for granted. And that's what I did.
That's all the time we have for you on this week's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, keeping to our commitment to keep the overall episode lengths bite-sized and digestible. We are going to break our conversation with Angela into 2 episodes. That was part 1. Thank you so much for joining us. Join us next week. We'll pick up right where we left off with Angela Finlay. Awesome conversations. Thank you to our sponsors, Rula, Excel Health, TrueHue, Montage Insurance Solutions, the guys keeping the lights on. We're blessed to be here. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Join us next week for the thrilling conclusion. Join us every week. And until next week, make this the best week yet.